Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back on a Japanese deep dive, continuing on some more Japanese fun films, this time for Yasuharu Hasebe, I believe first film I've seen this director, I hope I'm saying that correctly as well, I'm not great at pronunciations, through Black Tie Killers, released in 1966. I have recently talked about Tokyo Drifter, Brand to Kill and Tattoo Life, and that kind of led me on to this film in this kind of the same vein in terms of like kind of very poppy, kind of, you know, artsy style, kind of 60s kind of vibe kind of film, and is one from the Radiance release. This one, super cheap. Got this from CX, I think, for less than £10. So there you go there. I was always on the fence with this one. I wasn't too sure. I heard about it for quite some time. I heard it was good. I heard Tokyo Drifter was good. And, you know, there's so many movies to check out by so many different directors. And this is the first film I've seen of this director, despite having some of his films already with Stray Cat Rocks. He did most of the films on this edition and also did the fourth entry on the Female Prisoner Scorpio series with the Grudge song, the fourth entry, which is the one that I deliberately haven't watched. I know he did a series called The Rapening, which I made a joke with my friend about. He did a whole series of these kind of exploitations, comedy, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. Movies, I don't think they're available. I don't think I want to watch them anyway, but did a lot of those. Stray Cat Rocks obviously did the last entry of the Film Prisoner Scorpions and a few other kind of interesting kind of projects. I do have some other releases on Arrow Video and all that kind of stuff. As mentioned, Black Tie Killers released in 1966, starring Akira Kurobayashi. If I said him correctly, this is from a lot of the Kenji Fukusaka films, the Battle Without Honor series, a very popular kind of main actor choice. I have seen him in a few other projects. You know, he's definitely a recognizable actor, and he's the main star in this film. As mentioned within my Tokyo Drifter, this came out the same year, and it's very interesting that both films share some similar properties, but are so completely different. I'm going to say it straight off the bat. I keep this review quite simple, guys. Go and check this one out. Go and pick it up. It's very cheap. It's currently on sale right now, the Black Friday sales. Black Tie Killers was a lot of goddamn fun. This was a blast, and this was definitely the film that I was kind of hoping that maybe Tokyo Drifter was. I always felt with that director and his movies, there's a bit of like restraint, like there's a bit of like, you know, holding someone back to do the full movie that he wanted to do. I always felt that with all three of those films. So, you know, I do like them and do enjoy them. This film is completely off the cuff in terms of, you know, a very poppy 60s colorful movie. It's an action film. It's a comic book film. It's not a Yakuza movie at all. This is a action, fun, poppy adventure film, you know, through a ride from start to finish. You know, it's very kind of camp and tongue-in-cheek and wink and a nod and a bit of fun, while also being quite coherent and quite consistent, and even its own rinse and repeat reputation in terms of the storyline, in terms of, you know, this character keeps getting kidnapped over and over in the same gangs, and the people getting involved keep doing the same type of scenes towards the middle part, which is quite funny. There's a lot of deliberate choices here. I felt this was explosive in terms of creativity, not just within the technical aspects, within its colors and its how it portrays violence and its editing, but just odd, interesting kind of ideas that if you're not really paying attention, you kind of miss it. One recurring joke in the film, which I don't know if people picked up on or not, was every time there's a bit of a exposition scene, the background keeps changing. The same conversation keeps going, the characters keep talking, but they keep changing what they do. Sometimes it's kind of obvious, sometimes it's not, especially towards the end of the film and especially towards the middle, when we're talking about kind of like what the actual, these bad guys are after essentially, and just the actions, what they do in the scene is just so completely opposite and random compared to what they're talking about, but the conversation is exactly the same. It's really funny. This was an absolute blast, as mentioned, and I was really quite surprised. I thought the whole angle of, you know, the black type killers, you know, this idea of a bunch of women who have ninja stance and, you know, announcing their kind of, you know, abilities essentially. They're kind of, you know, they're not necessarily bad guys. They're just kind of, they're after a very specific thing. You know, I've seen some reviews on this saying this film doesn't have a plot. It does have a plot. It's, again, it's quite simple, and I think it works for the film. It's not trying to be this deep, insightful kind of movie, but surprisingly, compared to some of the other films that I have seen recently, it has a lot more heart. It has a lot more kind of fun spirit, a lot of fun energy about the whole film from start to finish. I think the main protagonist is so charming, so likable, such a fun character to have, and you know, the situation he kind of gets involved with is so kind of ludicrous and funny, and just, you know, it's completely out there. And the film has got this really kind of fast-paced nature. It's an hour-and-a-half movie. As you know, I love me an hour-and-a-half film, and it doesn't let up. Despite kind of the rinse and repeat sort of nature of this woman getting kidnapped during the start of the film. You know, you've got various different gangs. You've got essentially 3 different types of operational gangs. You got the kind of the traditional kind of, I guess, air quote, Yakuza, but not really. They're just more thieves than more bad guys. You've got the military kind of angle, people in the trench coats and the kind of the guns, and very unusual type of methods and weaponry and trickery they're trying to find out as well. And basically they all want this woman because she basically can lead to a series of gold that was basically hidden away from the wartime. The film opens up during the middle of a war. Our main protagonist is a war photographer. This woman has to know where it is, you know, because she has the father's journal, and you know, there is a lot of connected kind of back and forth between that. And that's essentially what the plot is. It's a lot of back and forth of trying to find information and trying to find out what's going on. And this war photographer is wrapped up in the middle of it, and it's kind of a, you know, a series of back and forth kind of shenanigans. But it's surprisingly, despite being very tongue-in-cheek, being very colourful and very out there, and it's still very consistent. It doesn't feel like it's just kind of throwing ideas at the wall, or it's just kind of, you know, sacrificing characters and emotion and story. It's actually very consistent. Some of the kind of the in-jokes are great as well. It's kind of like almost like a meta film in a weird way. It kind of knows that you're watching something a bit more out there. The fights are pretty fun. The gunplay's fun. The creativity and the car chase sequences are great as well. There's a lot of character deaths in the film as well. There's a really brilliant sequence where a character does get killed, and because the one of the bullet holes are hit like a paint can, it's kind of showing blue paint kind of spreading behind them. Visually, that's like gorgeous and really like creative and really fun. I kind of got the impression this is a version of Senkei Suzuki's Tokyo Drift that maybe he wanted to make. It's a bit unfair to compare these 2 movies, if I'm being honest, being that Tokyo Drifter is very much a deliberate Yakuza movie, very simple plot that has some visual flares to kind of represent certain moments within that film. It's a very serious movie, and its heart is just a character that kind of is, you know, has a heart of, you know, gold essentially. He's a very nice, he's a very loyal character that sings, and a lot of the violence and some of the specific kind of staging is just representing his kind of maybe state of mood, maybe his desires, and you know, his love for singing and for music, and just to kind of be a loyal kind of soldier in this kind of, you know, endless Yakuza war essentially. And this one, it's a lot more deliberate. It's a lot more kind of throwback to 007. It's a lot more of a poppier, you know, action comic booky type film. It is not trying to be a serious movie while saying that, still having a lot of emotion, while still having a lot of energy, a lot of fun, a lot of charm and likability to the film. I was really captivated and really engaged with this film from start to finish. I thought the cast was great. I thought the villains were a lot of fun. It has some kind of like Americans in it as well, in terms of some of the war profiteering, and it has some themes about this idea of, you know, chasing after that kind of lost gold. And there's a kind of a really clear point to the film, which I actually quite liked. Even the end track song, I think, highlighted quite well as well. And I like the ultimate point of what the film was trying to go for. Despite being this kind of larger-than-life movie, it still has something to say, you know, and it's good. It's great. I was pleasantly surprised by this film, and I don't want to say too much more. Please go and check it out. Black Tie Killers was an absolute blast from start to finish. Is there any other type of movies like this similar? Is Stray Cat Rocks very similar? Is that a little bit more of a serious kind of approach? Is any of the films from this director that we should be checking out? Please comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. In the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.